Imagine waking up and your spouse, your lifelong partner, is gone. The bed feels empty. Your heart feels broken. Your mind overwhelmed. In this moment of grief, you're most vulnerable, most likely to make mistakes you'll regret forever. Today, you'll learn the 4 emotional decisions you must never make after losing your spouse. Listen carefully, because the last mistake is one almost everyone makes, causing unimaginable pain. Don't let grief control your future. Watch closely, because what you learn today might just save your life. Before we begin, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell icon so you don't miss any video. Your spouse has just passed away. Your whole world feels like it's collapsing. You're grieving, lonely, and confused. Suddenly, everyone around you has advice. Sell your house, they say. Move closer to family, they urge. Invest in something new, they suggest. In your pain and confusion, it feels tempting. Maybe starting over would heal your heartache. Maybe changing everything would ease your pain. But listen carefully, in this exact moment, when your heart is hurting deeply, is when you're most vulnerable. It's when you're most likely to make decisions you'll regret forever. Research proves it clearly. After losing their spouse, seniors who make quick financial decisions often face deep regret. Let me tell you about Mary. Mary was 68 when she lost her husband, Jim. They spent 45 wonderful years together in the same home. After Jim died, Mary felt the house was too big, too empty. A family friend told her she should sell immediately. You'll feel better in a new place, and they said. Feeling lonely, Mary agreed. Within weeks, Mary had sold her family home, the place filled with precious memories of Jim, their children and grandchildren. She quickly bought a smaller apartment in a different neighborhood, but soon after, regret set in deeply. Every morning, Mary woke up feeling even lonelier. In this new place, memories were missing. She felt disconnected, confused, and deeply sad. She missed her home. She missed the memories. Her hurried financial decision cost her comfort and peace. Worse, selling quickly lost her thousands of dollars. She didn't research properly. She didn't negotiate well. She was too emotional, too overwhelmed. Today, Mary constantly tells friends her biggest regret, making huge financial decisions quickly after losing Jim. Experts warn us clearly, after losing your spouse, don't rush into financial decisions. Your grief is temporary, but financial mistakes can be permanent. When your emotions are raw, your mind isn't clear. You can't think logically. You're overwhelmed, and others may try to take advantage of that. Relatives might pressure you to give money or buy something expensive. Advisors might push you into risky investments. But your only answer should be one clear, simple word. Wait. Wait before selling your home. Wait before changing your investments. Wait before giving your money away. Take at least 6 months to process your loss first. Seek professional advice from someone you trust deeply. Discuss your plans with family and close friends who care about your long-term happiness. Time doesn't just heal your heart. Time protects your money, your future, and your peace of mind. Because when you're grieving, your future might seem dark, unclear, and uncertain. But you deserve financial security. You deserve comfort. You deserve happiness again. So remember Mary's painful lesson clearly. After losing your spouse, never rush into big financial decisions. Your spouse wouldn't want you to lose your financial security. They'd want you safe, comfortable, and cared for. Right now, promise yourself you'll wait, because your future depends on what you choose today. Choose wisely. After losing your spouse, your home suddenly feels painfully quiet. The person you loved, talked to, and laughed with every day is gone. And in this loneliness, a natural reaction often takes place. You begin to isolate yourself. Maybe you stop answering phone calls. Maybe you avoid friends, family, and neighbors. Maybe you spend entire days alone, sitting in silence, lost in painful memories. At first, isolation feels comforting. It feels safe, like no one can hurt you more than you're already hurting. But here's the truth. Isolation is dangerous, especially after losing someone you deeply loved. Doctors warn clearly. Isolation after losing your spouse is linked directly to severe depression, rapid cognitive decline, dementia, and even early death. Let's talk about Robert. Robert was 71 when he lost his beloved wife, Helen. Married for over 40 years, Robert and Helen shared everything: breakfast conversations, afternoon walks, and bedtime laughs. But when Helen passed away, Robert's world collapsed. He stopped seeing friends. He stopped attending family gatherings. He stopped going outside entirely. Robert believed isolation was his way of coping with pain. He thought being alone was safe, but very soon his isolation started destroying him. First, Robert lost weight. He had no appetite. Then his memory began slipping. He forgot appointments, bills, birthdays. His daughter visited and was shocked. Robert looked frail, weak, lonely. A man who was once vibrant and full of life had faded dramatically in just months. Doctors gave Robert's family heartbreaking news. His isolation was severely harming his mind and body. Without immediate changes, his health would decline even further. Robert learned something crucial. Isolation isn't comfort. It's a silent killer. Research shows clearly, after age 65, isolated seniors are twice as likely to suffer serious health issues and emotional problems compared to those who stay socially active. Right now, you might feel like Robert, alone, sad, disconnected. Maybe you've started isolating yourself already. Maybe you're considering it. But please listen carefully. Isolation is never the answer. Instead, take small steps toward connection today. Call one close friend. Visit family, even if it feels difficult. Join a local seniors group, attend religious gatherings, or volunteer your time. Initially, reaching out may feel uncomfortable or even painful, but these connections are vital for your survival. You're not dishonoring your spouse by finding happiness again. In fact, the person you lost would want you to live, not just exist. Your spouse would never want loneliness and isolation to harm your health and happiness. Think clearly. Would they want you locked away, alone, and suffering silently? Or would they want you surrounded by support, love, and care? You already know the answer. So don't let isolation become your choice. Let Robert's painful lesson be your guide. Reach out, connect, rebuild your relationships. Yes, life will feel different without your spouse, but different can still be meaningful. Different can still be happy, and your life still matters deeply. Make this promise to yourself now. After losing your spouse, never isolate yourself completely. Choose life, choose love, choose connection, because you deserve it, and your spouse would want nothing less for you. When your spouse passes away, the loneliness can hit you harder than you ever imagined. Your house feels empty, your days feel quiet, and your heart feels a deep ache that won't go away. It's natural in these moments to desperately seek comfort and companionship. Maybe you meet someone new who listens to you. Maybe a friend or neighbor suddenly becomes very close, very quickly. Or perhaps a relative you've rarely spoken with becomes overly involved in your life. In grief, it feels good to trust again. It feels comforting to have someone fill the painful void. But please stop and listen closely. This moment, right after losing your spouse, is the worst time to rush into new relationships or trust someone new too quickly. Here's why. When you're grieving, your emotions take control. Your judgment weakens. You become vulnerable to people who might not have your best interests at heart. Studies confirm this alarming fact. Elderly widows and widowers are often targeted by people who see their loneliness as an opportunity to manipulate or exploit them emotionally and financially. Let me tell you about Linda. Linda was 74 when she lost her husband of nearly 50 years, Tom. They'd always been together. Linda never imagined life without him. After Tom passed away, Linda felt deeply lonely and emotionally vulnerable. Then unexpectedly, she met Susan, a new neighbor who suddenly showed great interest in her life. Susan visited daily, brought meals, offered comfort, and filled Linda's lonely days with company. Linda quickly trusted Susan completely. She felt grateful for someone who seemed to care so much. But soon, Susan began asking Linda for favors. Small amounts of money at first, then bigger and bigger requests. In her loneliness and gratitude, Linda agreed. She didn't question Susan's motives. She just wanted the friendship to continue. Sadly, Susan was exploiting Linda's grief. By the time Linda realized the truth, she'd lost thousands of dollars and suffered even greater emotional pain. Doctors and therapists warn clearly, loneliness after losing a spouse makes seniors especially vulnerable to exploitation and emotional harm. Linda's painful story shows exactly why rushing into new friendships or relationships immediately after your loss is so dangerous. Now ask yourself carefully, could this happen to you? If you've recently lost your spouse, the answer is yes, it absolutely could. So please protect yourself. Take your time building new relationships. Go slowly. Be cautious. Make sure the people you trust have truly good intentions. Never rush into emotional decisions about friendships, relationships, or people who suddenly come into your life when you're grieving. Instead, rely on longtime friends and trusted family members first. Seek professional advice if you feel unsure. Remember clearly, your spouse would want you safe and protected. They wouldn't want anyone to take advantage of your grief. You deserve genuine friendship, real support, and sincere care. But finding these relationships takes patience and wisdom, not impulsiveness. Right now, promise yourself clearly, after losing your spouse, you'll never rush into immediate relationship decisions. You'll wait, think clearly, and protect your heart, because your future and your emotional health depend on it. The day you lose your spouse, everything suddenly changes. Your home feels painfully quiet. Daily routines feel pointless. Things that once brought joy now remind you of your loss. In moments like this, you might feel tempted to change everything quickly. You consider moving away, leaving your home behind. Maybe you stop hobbies and activities you both enjoyed together. Perhaps you abandon routines you had for decades, hoping it'll ease your pain. But please listen closely right now. Changing your entire lifestyle too quickly after losing your spouse can be one of the most damaging decisions you ever make. Doctors, therapists, and grief experts strongly warn against making sudden lifestyle changes while grieving. Why? Because when your heart is broken, your mind struggles to think clearly. Rushing to abandon your familiar routines can intensify feelings of grief, confusion, and loneliness. Meet George. George was 69 when his beloved wife Elizabeth passed away suddenly. They'd been together for over 40 beautiful years. In his pain, George thought drastic changes would help him move on quickly. He immediately stopped going to church. He quit gardening, a hobby they both loved. He even left the home where they'd shared decades of memories and moved across town to a place that felt unfamiliar. George thought leaving everything behind would erase his pain, but he soon learned he had made a heartbreaking mistake. Instead of healing, George felt even emptier and more lost. Without his familiar routines, George felt disconnected, isolated, and increasingly depressed. He realized too late that his sudden lifestyle changes hadn't reduced his grief. They had deepened it. Doctors soon explained what George experienced clearly. After losing your spouse, familiarity and routine actually help stabilize your emotional health. Routines are powerful. They anchor your mind. They give you structure, comfort, and normalcy during grief. Removing these anchors too quickly can create even greater emotional turmoil. Grief counselors strongly advise keeping most routines stable during the first several months after losing a spouse. Slowly adjust your life only after giving yourself time to heal. Maintain your daily walks. Keep attending your community groups. Hold on to your hobbies, friends, and regular schedules, even if they're emotionally painful at first. Why? Because routine offers comfort, consistency, and emotional support. Exactly what you desperately need during grief. Eventually, you'll naturally adapt to a new lifestyle, but it must happen gradually, not suddenly. Right now, think carefully about your own life. Have you considered sudden, drastic lifestyle changes to ease your pain? If so, please stop and reconsider immediately. Give yourself the gift of stability. Take small steps to adjust, not huge leaps. Slowly find new meaning and joy in familiar activities. Because your spouse wouldn't want you to erase everything that defined your beautiful life together. They'd want you to heal slowly, thoughtfully, and peacefully. Make this promise clearly to yourself now. After losing your spouse, you'll never rush to change your entire lifestyle. You deserve time, you deserve comfort, and most importantly, you deserve healing. Your life, happiness, and emotional health depend on the wise decisions you make today. Choose stability, choose patience, choose wisely. You've now learned the 4 emotional decisions you must never make after losing your spouse. Remember them clearly. Don't rush big financial moves. Never isolate yourself. Avoid making quick relationship decisions. Don't drastically change your entire lifestyle suddenly. Right now, your heart might feel heavy. You might even feel overwhelmed. That's completely understandable. Losing your spouse is one of the most painful experiences you'll ever face. But listen carefully. Your life is not over. Your story is not finished. You still have beautiful, meaningful days ahead if you choose wisely today. Yes, the grief is real. It hurts deeply. But you will heal. You can find joy again. And when you do, your spouse would want you to feel happiness, comfort, and peace, not regret. Think for a moment about the person you lost. Would they want you to suffer financial mistakes, loneliness, emotional manipulation, or unnecessary heartbreak? You know the answer already. They'd never want that for you. Your spouse would want you protected. They'd want you strong, safe, and cared for. Every piece of advice you've heard today comes from countless real stories of seniors who face the same heartbreak you're feeling. They've made mistakes, and they've learned the painful truth. And now they want you to avoid that suffering. So please take their wisdom to heart. Promise yourself right now you'll wait before major financial decisions. Promise yourself you'll connect with loved ones and reject isolation. Promise you'll go slowly with new friendships and protect your emotional health. Promise you'll keep meaningful routines and make lifestyle changes thoughtfully, not impulsively. You deserve happiness, peace, and love again. You deserve a safe, comfortable, emotionally healthy future. Your spouse would agree wholeheartedly. Finally, help others who may face similar pain. Share this important message. Leave your own experiences in the comments below. Your wisdom could help someone else avoid deep regret. Your story, your strength, and your courage matter deeply, because losing a spouse changes your life forever. But how it changes you is your decision. Today, choose to honor your spouse's memory wisely. Choose hope. Choose healing. Choose happiness. Make the choice today that your spouse would want you to make, because your life still matters deeply.